from West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
West Virginia has produced noted scientists and technicians, mathematicians and engineers who have made their mark on the state, the nation, and the world, including a heart surgeon from McDowell County, a field biologist and conservationist from Berkeley County, and a structural engineer from Elkins. Today, their stories are inspiring West Virginia students to soar.
I'm Geoffrey Cousins. I was born in Welch, West Virginia, in the county of McDowell. I'm the youngest of 11 children. I'm a heart surgeon.
Dr. Geoffrey Cousins practices at the Charleston Area Medical Center and is one of the most innovative heart surgeons in West Virginia.
Traditionally, heart surgery has been performed with the heart-lung machine. And you connect the patient to the machine and you kind of stop the heart, and the machine provides blood flow, oxygen, and what have you during that time. Beating heart surgery, where we eliminate the heart-lung machine, we do not stop the heart, and because of technology and instruments that we have, we're able to do the surgery with the heart beating. And so I think my patients recover a little faster, get back to their normal life a little better, and it eliminates a lot of issues that we develop with the heart-lung machine.
Dr. Cousins was also a pioneer in the United States of robotic-assisted heart surgery. Though he currently isn't practicing it, the robot is on hand in the operating room. He also believes minimally invasive heart surgery will become much more common in the years ahead.
Typically, I do your heart surgery through a very big incision on the sternum, and so now we're practicing techniques and learning techniques to make that incision smaller, or to go in through between the ribs for a smaller incision. So I think in the future, everything is going to get smaller. More technology is going to be involved. So, if anyone's interested in bioengineering or technology along those lines, I think all of those things are going to be prominent in the future.
Dr. Cousins is one of the few heart surgeons in West Virginia who performs beating heart surgery.
Typically, my day starts at around 7 a.m. or so, and that's at home. I get up with my little children and get them off to the school bus around 7:15. I then come straight to the hospital. It's always exciting to get here and to see the patients that you worked on the day before and to see how well they're doing and what issues they may have. I typically go to the open heart recovery unit first because that's where the patients who I've operated on most recently are. And I like to make sure before starting the day that they're doing well, that any issues that their families have or any questions that they have, we can address those issues before we get off into surgery. From the open heart recovery unit, I typically will transfer any patients who are stable and doing very well to the step-down unit. And then I leave the open heart recovery unit, I go to the step-down unit and see patients who are already there. And that's very fulfilling as well because those patients are 2 or 3 days out from surgery and they're feeling a lot better. If I don't have office hours, I would typically go straight to the operating room, and we like to start our surgery no later than about 8:30 a.m. Sometimes surgery we'll do 2 or 3 a day. Sometimes there's only one. It just depends on what the volume is at the time. Typically, a heart surgeon will earn anywhere from $300,000 to more than $1 million a year. It all has to do with how much he's sought after or she's sought after as a surgeon, and also depends on which part of the country that you're in and the cost of living associated with that. But we make a very good living. We're able to take good care of our families. I love the patients. I love the surgical procedures and what every day that I'm able to open up someone's chest, touch their heart, fix their heart, put them back together, and then send them on their way for many more years of life, that's what I love. The parts that I don't love are the politics and the paperwork. Unfortunately, in every business, there's some politics and there's lots of paperwork. And those are the things that take me away from taking care of the patients, and so those things I like the least. I'm from southern West Virginia, a little town called McDowell, which a lot of people don't know. They know McDowell County, but there's a little town in McDowell named McDowell. I'm a late baby. By the time I was born, my mom was 46 years old and my dad was 50. In this small coal mining community, we were very close-knit. Everybody went to town on Friday and went to church on Sunday.
But both of Geoffrey's parents had health problems. His father had a bad heart due to 30 years working in the coal mines, and his mother had diabetes.
So I spent a lot of my early years back and forth to doctors' offices and hospitals because of my parents' health. It was somewhat disheartening because we didn't always get any answers when we went to the physician's office or to the hospital. In fact, a lot of times we left the hospital with more questions and confusion than when we showed up.
Young Geoffrey, who went to Crumpler Elementary School, was an excellent student. When he was 10, his father retired and moved the family to Detroit. The day he left West Virginia, Geoffrey promised himself that one day he would return to West Virginia. He wanted to be able to help people like his parents who had serious health problems. In the meantime, he had to deal with being the new kid on the block.
8th grade was interesting for me because at this point I had moved away from McDowell County and we had moved to Detroit, Michigan. And I was the new kid on the block. I had a very strong southern McDowell accent. And so oftentimes I was the brunt of the jokes. Instead of being offended by that, I sometimes would join in with them. And I would also show them that I could read very well, I could write very well, and I could do my arithmetic very well. And I was a little more advanced than they were. Although I had a strong country accent, I had a very good primary education. And so those things allowed me to be number one in the class, and that offset any of the bullying or the jokes that were taking place. So I actually ended up having the last laugh.
After high school, Geoffrey won a scholarship to the University of Pennsylvania.
The time that I was coming along, everything was very heavily focused on science. And so I took and went into and graduated from the University of Pennsylvania with a degree in biology. Since that time, it looks like medical schools are looking for people who are more diverse, more well-rounded. So they're looking for a person who may have majored in English or criminal justice or some other area, but you still have to take your prerequisite science courses. So chemistry, biology, physics, mathematics, things along that line are going to serve you very well in medical school and beyond.
Dr. Cousins went to medical school at the University of Michigan and completed his surgery residency at St. John Hospital and Medical Center in Detroit. He then did further training in heart surgery at the Medical College of Virginia in Richmond. As soon as he finished all of his medical training, Dr. Geoffrey Cousins returned to West Virginia to live and work.
West Virginia means everything to me. It's my birthplace. It's the birthplace of my parents as well as my grandparents, and now I'm raising my own family here. It is the roots, the teaching that I received in the public schools of McDowell County in the 70s, the communities that we lived in, the churches that we went to, and the whole way of life of southern West Virginia is the reason that I'm the person that I am today. And I have West Virginia and all of those people to thank for any successes that I've had. As an 8th grader, I think it's very important for you to understand that everything that you're doing is important. It may not seem important to you now. English may not seem important. History may not seem important, but all of these things are designed to help you with discipline, to help you develop critical thinking skills, analytical thinking skills, and these things will all serve you in good stead no matter what profession you decide to go into, but in particular if you decide to go into medicine.
I'm Rodney Bartgis. My training was in botany and field biology, and today I am a professional conservationist.
Conservationists work to protect plants, animals, and other natural resources. While director of the Nature Conservancy in West Virginia, Rodney Bartgis took us to one of the state's most interesting natural areas.
I'm standing on Cave Mountain. I am right on the county line between Grant County, West Virginia, and Pendleton County, West Virginia. The elevation here is about 2,600 feet above sea level. Right behind me, the mountain's dropping off into a canyon, the Smoke Hole Canyon. The canyon's about 11 miles long, and right through the middle of it flows the South Branch of the Potomac on its journey towards the Chesapeake Bay. Behind me, the valley floor is giving way to the green mountain behind me, North Fork Mountain. North Fork Mountain is one of the driest mountains, meaning it receives some of the least rainfall and snowfall of any mountain in eastern North America.
Preserving these unique, wild areas of West Virginia is what Rodney Bartgis does on a daily basis.
A typical day as a conservationist means you're thinking, what is it that we need to be doing to make sure that the important lands, waters, forests in West Virginia are going to be around for the future? What's it take to keep them healthy? What's it take to make sure that we can continue to enjoy them? There's a lot involved in that. So at times, you're acting as a scientist. At other times, you're acting as a businessman. How do you put a deal together to save a piece of land? At other times, you're acting like a politician. How do you bring the public or somebody of influence to try to do things the way that your science and yourself thinks things should be going? Other times, you're a banker trying to figure out how to finance a project. And other times, you're a professional, for lack of a better word, an actor, because you're, like I am right now, trying to explain to other people why something's important and what needs to be done.
Before he became a professional conservationist, Rodney Bartgis spent many years exploring the plant and animal life in West Virginia. As a field biologist, he discovered dozens of new plant and animal species in the state, some of them right on this mountain.
It's exciting. It's the thrill of the chase sometimes, that thrill of discovery. And here in West Virginia, we're still finding things that we never knew were here, and things about our animals and plants that we never knew about before. West Virginia is really blessed because we have forests and streams that are still large and extensive. We have more variety of plants and animals than many other parts of the United States. Matter of fact, we're one of the richest parts of North America for plant and animal life. So in some ways, it's shocking how much is left to be found. And you would think that, now in the 21st century, all of that's known, and it's not. We're standing on Cave Mountain. And when I started doing my field work as a botanist, Cave Mountain was unknown.
The Nature Conservancy, one of several conservation groups in the state, has helped preserve more than 120,000 acres in West Virginia. Rodney's interest in the natural world started when he was a young boy in Berkeley County.
I grew up on a farm, so when my chores were done, I was out in the woods with my dog or run down the creek with a cousin or something like that. In school, I was excited by science and, like any student, excited by some things, bored by others. But good teachers and, of course, the family and my friends helped me at 8th grade really start to develop and build my interest in becoming a scientist. And by the time I was out of 8th grade, I knew that science was going to be the track that was going to keep me excited, and I've never lost that excitement.
Rodney studied biology at Shepherd University and then went on to earn a master's in science from West Virginia University.
When I was a teenager, I met friends that had similar interests, and we taught each other as well. We went to different schools, high schools, but we found each other. We learned that we all love birding and looking for wildflowers, along with hunting and fishing. We go out in the woods, and when we learn something, we get excited and we'd share it with each other. And we still do that today, decades later. A professional field biologist, when they first go into the field, will probably be making these days around $30,000, $40,000. What they then do will help define what kind of pay they'll get. So if you stay as a field biologist, you're looking at maybe $40,000, $50,000. If you take on more management responsibilities, you'll start looking at $70,000 maybe, and then as you take on leadership roles, you can end up in jobs that will bring you over $100,000 a year.
But you don't have to be a professional scientist to contribute to the world's knowledge about plants, animals, and birds. You can start right now.
There are opportunities for everybody to contribute to science through these citizen science efforts that are online, on the web. One that is easy and great to access is something called eBird, E-B-I-R-D, and it's run by Cornell University. Anybody can contribute information to that. If you go out and you just see hummingbirds at your feeder, you can go on to eBird and say, I saw hummingbirds at my feeder today. Or if you keep a list of things that you saw someplace at your granddad's farm or on a walk in the park, you can go in and add that to eBird. Well, tens of thousands of people are doing that. And it is starting to build up this incredible network of information all around the world of where what birds are and when they're there and what they're doing.
Rodney Bartgis believes this is an exciting time to be a scientist in West Virginia.
There's a lot of ways to think about the word opportunity. And to some people that is, am I going to be able to make a lot of money? Am I going to be able to find a good job? But opportunity also means being able to do things that no one else is doing. And to find that row that lets you lead a unique and interesting life. And you can do that in West Virginia. There are relatively few scientists in West Virginia, relatively few field biologists, relatively few conservationists. So when you're in that field, you're doing things, you're moving things forward that few other people in West Virginia are doing yet. Someday there'll be even more of us doing these things. But in other states, there's already lots of people doing those things. Here, we can lead. An individual can go to the forefront and break new ground, do new and innovative work with lasting meaning.
I'm John Ochsendorf. I grew up in Elkins, West Virginia, in Randolph County. I'm a professor of civil engineering and architecture at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology here in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
MIT is the world's top technical university, especially known for the physical sciences and engineering.
I'm a structural engineer. I work on designing buildings to make them stand up and not fall down, and I also work on studying old buildings and proving why they're still standing up or showing when they're about to fall down. And by studying history as a structural engineer, we find lessons for the design of new buildings that use radically lower resources. What I love about my job is working with young people and help them develop their dreams and help them make their dreams a reality. I also love the feeling of discovery when we find something that no one has ever known before, or build something that no one has ever built before. It gives you goosebumps, and it's a real thrill to make new things. A typical day at MIT, I'll be in the classroom in front of students, and then I often meet with students one-on-one or in small groups. We're doing research, we're making new discoveries in engineering, in some ways pushing back frontiers of knowledge, and that is not really an individual sport. It's really a team sport. So I sit down with teams of students and we feed off each other and give each other ideas and brainstorm, and it's incredibly fun and exhilarating. Is that Catherine? Can you come on in, please? And one of the most exciting aspects of my life and what I do is I open up opportunities for students and for young people. If a young person comes to me and they don't have a dream, it's my goal to help them develop their dreams. That's why being a teacher and being a professor and a researcher in engineering, for me, I just couldn't imagine a better life.
Lemuel Chenoweth was a great 19th century engineer and a West Virginian. One of Professor Ochsendorf's students at MIT has been studying the work of Chenoweth, who designed and built covered bridges all over the United States, many in West Virginia.
But very little has been written about Lemuel Chenoweth, about his engineering work, about our understanding of where he got his knowledge. We think the whole country should know about him and his work. It's our long-term goal that one day we could rebuild some of his bridges in West Virginia that are no longer there, using the traditional materials and traditional techniques and know-how that exists in West Virginia.
John Ochsendorf is not only a teacher and professor, he's the world's leading authority on the structure of old buildings, especially the domes and vaults and arches you often see in ancient cathedrals and other places of worship. Buildings that are still standing after centuries or even thousands of years.
So growing up in West Virginia, I was fascinated by old buildings. I used to explore old abandoned houses where I grew up in Elkins. And one of those mansions I was lucky enough to get married in many years later after it was remodeled. But that really lit a fire in me to understand how old buildings were built, and more importantly, what we could learn from the builders who generations ago were able to construct such lasting monuments. And so, in particular, I've been fascinated by the work of one immigrant family who came from Spain. And this family built structural tile ceilings, so ceramic tile like you might find on a bathroom floor, but they could build it overhead in domes more than 100 feet across, or in really complex spiraling staircases, which are load-bearing, which are incredibly strong, and which have not been fully appreciated, in part because most engineers don't look back to history, and we have so much to learn from history.
This Spanish family, Raphael Guastavino and his son, worked on more than 1,000 buildings in the United States, including the West Virginia State Capitol in Charleston. John Ochsendorf's work, uncovering the amazing accomplishments of the Guastavino family, is now part of a traveling exhibition. Tens of thousands of people have seen it in Boston, New York City, and the National Building Museum in Washington, D.C. Before the exhibition, a team of master masons and Ochsendorf students at MIT built a mock-up of a Guastavino arched ceiling to show how it's constructed, how strong, and how light it is. He's also used some of these old building techniques in modern structures, such as a South African museum he helped design, using local materials and local labor. This building was recently named the World Building of the Year. Engineers can make a good living.
As a civil engineer, a graduating engineer would earn about $60,000 a year today, so that's about what my students earn. If you're a professor at a university, you might expect to earn about $100,000 a year. For some reason I'm not entirely sure of, I earn about $200,000 a year. I have a real belief that if you pursue your passion and do what you love, money will work itself out.
John Ochsendorf grew up in Elkins, West Virginia, the second of 6 children. His parents decided not to have a television or telephone, so John spent a lot of his childhood outdoors, or making things.
In 8th grade, I was very ornery. Some of my teachers at the time would probably not have predicted that I was destined to be a professor at MIT. And I had really exceptional teachers. In fact, one teacher in 5th grade in Elkins opened up my eyes to historical engineering and suggested I write a term paper about the Inca Empire in Peru. And within about 15 years of writing that paper, I was, an expert on Inca engineering in Peru. When you study engineering in college, you take some math, you take some basic science and physics, and we have to understand the world around us in order to design new things. They say science asks the question why, to try to understand the world around us. Engineers ask a different question. We ask why not. We try to create new things that have never existed before. Engineering is really problem solving, And, it's not that different from designing a treehouse and thinking, how am I going to support that? And what do I connect it to? And how am I going to make it strong?
Every summer, John Ochsendorf and his family return to West Virginia.
Well, we're here in Pocahontas County, which is one of the prettiest parts of the state and one of my favorite places in West Virginia. Part of my love for science and engineering and trying to understand how the world works, I think comes from growing up playing outside in West Virginia, splashing around in creeks, trying to catch things, and just trying to figure out how the world works and trying to understand the world around me. It's a very special place we have here, and I always found that my background growing up outside really helped me become a better engineer because I learned and knew how to build things.
No matter where I live, I'll always be a West Virginian.
Inspiring West Virginians is made possible by the generous support of the Myles Family Foundation. Inspiring West Virginians to soar.
From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.